Hi, this is Mama Shan with another video tutorial. I'm going to show you how to create custom brushes that you can use in Photoshop. So let's get started. I'm going to close this document up and we're going to set up a practice document. Go under File, New, and we're just going to set 400 pixels by 400 pixels. Resolution 100 is fine. Click OK. So we just have this little scratch board. Now we want to create a star. How do we do that in Photoshop? Well, first of all, I'm going to switch my foreground color to black because when you're defining a brush, it's going to be black over white, and white will react like transparency, so that when you have the brush defined, you can choose any color from the foreground color swatch to stamp your brush with. So you start off working on black over white. And what we're going to do is select the shape tool down here and then look up in the top options bar and choose the polygon tool. Click on that so that it is selected. And over here, let's just have paths selected until we fine-tune the shape that we want to get. Since we're using paths, we should probably open up the Paths palette too. So you can go under Window and choose Paths, and it should show up. I'll just bring mine over here along with the Layers palette. So we're going to start off. By default, yours will probably be set to 3, and you want to choose this first icon here, which is saying Add Path to Area. So we're starting off a new path. And we're just going to click and drag. And look what that gives us, a triangle. Well, that's not what we want. So we want to increase the size. Let's try 5. And now let's drag with it. And what does that give us? It gives us a polygon. You have to go into the top options bar for the polygon tool to the geometry options, which is located right here, this downward triangle. Click on it, and now we can type in this check mark for star. Your indent side spy will probably be at a default of around 25%. So let's click and drag with that and see what happens. Well, it's kind of a chubby star, isn't it? Not quite what we have in mind for our brushes. So we're going to again go into the polygon options, and we're going to increase the indent size by. We'll go up to 60 to see what that looks like, and click and drag, and that's a little better, but still not quite the shape that we're looking for. Back in here too, we have a smooth corners option and a smooth indents option. This isn't what we want, but I want to show you the effects that it has by clicking these options on. We'll click and drag again. So you can see that those options round the indents here and also the tips of the spires here. We'll come back to options. We will uncheck smooth corners, uncheck smooth indents. We'll increase our indent size to 90%. And now we'll click and drag. And that's more of the shape that we're looking for. So since we've decided upon the shape and the number of sides we want for our star, we can delete this work path by dragging it to the path trash icon. Now what we're going to do is create the basis for our brush. So again, black foreground, but up here in the options bar for the polygon tool, we're going to select this third one that's going to automatically draw it on this background layer in pixels. And we want it in pixels because we are going to add some filters to it. And you can't add filters to a vector shape layer or a path. A path is not filled, so there's nothing to affect it with. So we're going to start off the bat here with this option set and opacity 100%, anti-alias checked. And we want to drag from the center outward Now you can eyeball this, but for those of you that want to use precise functions in Photoshop, I'm going to show you how to do that. And that is to, first of all, turn on your rulers with a Control R. And then the next thing you want to do is come up to View and make sure the Snap feature is checked. Then we're going to go to Select All so that we have a selection running for our transformation tool. The transformation tool, you can, the free transform command, use the shortcut Control T on a PC or Command T on a Mac. What that does is it puts a bounding box around that selection. We're not going to change the size or anything. We're just doing that because of the features of the Snap 2. They work on these handles. So instead of trying to use math, we can just click and drag from the ruler out here, and it's going to snap directly to the center of that handle on the transformation bounding box. Now if you do that and release and don't see a guideline, you might also want to check under your View menu to make sure that you have Show Guides checked. Now we'll grab from the top ruler and drag down until it snaps. And since we have the guides placed, we just need to hit the Cancel button on the transformation command, and we need to deselect that selection. And we can also turn the rulers off by hitting Control R or Command R. So now we have a center point. Line up your cursor here. We've got still have our polygon tool shaped. If you line it up right on the center, you'll see both the vertical and horizontal axis of that precise cursor will turn red. At that point, you want to just click, and then you want to hold down your Option or Alt key. This will constrain the shape when you drag from the center outward, so it'll be placed right in the center. Hold down the Shift key as well, and then start dragging. Shift is going to constrain the proportion of the star. So we're dragging outward. We don't want to drag all the way to the edges because, as I said, we're going to add a filter onto this to kind of blur out the spires on the star. So just release, and that has created that shape on the background layer. We can turn off the guides now by hitting Control H on a PC or Command H on a Macintosh. And now we want to go under the Filter menu and go to Blur, and then you want to choose Radial Blur. When the Radial Blur dialog box opens up, it'll probably have the Spin Radio button on, which would make sort of a twirly blur around this. That's not what we want. We want the zoom type method. So click on that radio button, and then we will bump up the amount, which is usually at a default 10, and we'll go up to about 75. And we'll click OK. You can have the good quality on. It's fine. And you can see how that's kind of blurred out the edges. If you want to add a little bit more, you can invoke the last filter used, again with a keyboard shortcut, to just blur it a little bit more, and that would be holding down your Control F keys on a PC, Command F on a Macintosh. And that's about all we need here because we don't want it to be chopped off there. So we're creating the basis for our brush here. The next step that we're going to use is to get our regular airbrush tool. Click on the regular brush tool and come up here and find your airbrush soft round. Doesn't matter what size to begin with. And you're just going to eyeball it in the center here and have the opacity and flow at 100%. Now, when I click on this real quickly, it gives me something like that. I'm going to undo that. If I click and hold, watch what happens. Just like an airbrush, the flow, because it's set to 100%, is going to bleed out like that. So you have that sort of puffy snowball. That's not quite what I want. I just want to do a quick click. Maybe I'll make the diameter just a little bit bigger, center that, and just click like that, so that some of the shape of the star is still showing through, and then we just have that little glowy snowball thing in the back. So that's it for part 1. In part 2, I'll show you how to define your brush and some other things that we can do.